Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Fringe North podcast. My name is Caitlin Townsend. My pronouns are she and her, and I am the project coordinator for this year's festival. And I have with me here today Melanie. Melanie, would you like to take a moment to just introduce yourself and share a bit about your submission for this year's festival?
Sure. Hi, my name is Melanie Gall, also pronouns she and her. I am a formerly classical singer who now sings a wide variety of things. I used to be an opera singer. I sang all over the world, and now still sing all over the world, just different kinds of music. And my submission for this year's festival, well, I am in a lot of ways a music historian. So I research old music. I dig out old songs, old popular music from the early 20th century, largely that has been lost or that has been forgotten, and then I build shows around this music. So this show is built around the lost songs of American Prohibition. So
Nice.
101 years ago, because this was going to be my show for 2020, the big selling point was it's been 100 years. So it's been 101 years ago, American Prohibition came into effect. So these are songs talking about the many different aspects of American Prohibition and about how Canada also played into that through forgotten popular music.
That sounds really exciting. So,
Yes.
what kind of sparked your passion with wanting to dig into this material?
Well, I was performing a different show. I was touring a show about Deanna Durbin and Judy Garland. So everyone knows Judy Garland. Deanna Durbin is her rival from 1930. It was her rival throughout her career. And I was doing a show about them, and I was touring it around the world. And it got picked as sort of one of the top touring shows. It got brought to New York. I got an off-Broadway run. And the theater where I was performing used to be a speakeasy. And so a lot of the original wall mountings are still there. The original bar is still there. And I was like, you know what? I want to come back and do a show about Prohibition. And
Nice.
so then I started looking at the songs, and there are so many because I mean I didn't know a lot about American Prohibition. I knew it was a thing. I knew Canada also kind of had Prohibition, but the dates were slightly different. But yeah, I learned a lot. I learned a lot, and it isn't just about drinking. It was also about I mean, in a way, women got the vote. The same people who were pushing for prohibition pushed for women getting the vote. So everything, so much of history is connected. Um,
Yeah.
yes, and also I thought it would be fun to tour with a big sash that said like "Ban Demon Rum" and walk around with a cocktail glass. I know I realize you don't serve rum in a cocktail glass, but I just thought that that would be really fun to flyer, with a cocktail glass, a pink cocktail glass, and a giant banner, saying "Ban Demon Rum." I thought that would be really fun. So I
Yeah.
have those now.
That sounds really exciting. So looking at that process, you had shared that when you first started the project, you didn't know a whole lot about Prohibition. So as you unearthed those different pieces, how did that influence the project as a whole and kind of like your direction that you were going to take with it as you learned these new things?
Well, it's a theater show. I mean, it isn't a lecture or anything. And
Mhm.
all the shows I put together in sort of the same way. So I have an idea and I look into it. And as I uncover the songs and uncover the stories, I do all the research and then I start writing the piece. So the piece was written around what I found. So I mean,
Nice.
if I had found different information, it would be a different show,
Mhm.
basically.
Yeah.
So
So you
that's how.
so your process was is always to do like all the research first and then create scripts and songs off of that.
Well, it's finding the songs. So it's finding the
Okay.
songs and then doing the research around the songs because a lot of these historic popular songs reference a whole bunch of things because I mean, they're from the old broadside ballads in England. They reference the news, they reference what's happening. They were written to sell sheet music essentially. There was a huge output in both England and the States, and Canadian songs were often published down in New York to sell sheet music. I mean,
Mhm.
recorded music wasn't a big thing. So it was just to be a cute, interesting enough song so people would buy the sheet music to play at home. So there are a lot of songs, and often they will reference. It's like a magazine at the checkout counter, basically, of a song. So then I look up, who's the person they reference? What is this doctor prescribing alcohol thing that they're talking about? And then you find the different stories from there.
Sounds really exciting and really fun.
It was
Uh,
in this case, sometimes you're like, wow, there's so much I don't know what to do with it. But here,
yeah.
the stories fit in very, very well.
Mhm. Yeah. So with doing this project, it was initially for 2020. So you had done it prior to the pandemic actually hitting then, and you had it kind of in place, or were you still working on it when the pandemic hit?
I finished writing the show in late February 2020 because I was performing in Adelaide, Australia, and my show was in the
Nice.
evening every day, and it was just too hot to do anything else. So I would go to a cafe that had air conditioning basically and just spend, a few delightful hours every day working on this. It was just lovely. They toast banana bread there. They don't eat it untoasted. So, you get your toasted banana bread and you're like they don't have Starbucks in Adelaide, which is great. They're big on their own kind of coffee. So like get the pretentious Adelaide coffee and the toasted banana bread and way too expensive, but it's okay because it's Australia, and sit down with it and just work on the show. So I basically had it done when I ended up trapped back in Canada
Yeah.
in March. Unfortunately, I had ordered a bunch of props off eBay because for this historic stuff, it is easiest to find props on eBay. I mean, it's
Mhm.
cheaper buying them often than recreating them. And I had them shipped to a friend in the States in New York. So all the props I'm using are secondary. I got them since then, or made them since then. So I have an entire second set of props sitting in New York waiting for the border.
No.
But like when I tour, it's going to be handy to have, other things. But so
Mhm.
then when I knew I was going to be recording the show, I had to re-get all the props.
Yeah. Yeah, that sounds like an adventure.
It was, but it was fun. It was a fun
Mhm.
adventure, but it was certainly an adventure.
So what do you find different in terms of creating a filmed project versus when you actually get to tour with your material?
Well, I was really lucky for this project because I had a theater for an entire day to film
Oh,
this
nice.
project. So I mean, often when you film a show, it's not that you don't put it online and it's not that you don't use it in things digitally, but it's filmed more as just a record of what you've done. You have your 15 minutes to set up a show, and that includes, putting the mic on you and doing a sound check plus doing a lighting check and things. It's a live audience, things go wrong, things, someone's coughing the whole time, whatever it is, the cell phone rings. Although that happened during this show. If you listen really closely, you'll hear I wasn't able to take that out completely. But often it's one camera or two cameras, and it's just with this show, I had an entire day in a theater. Although I only did run the show once, got I got the I it was a controlled environment.
Mhm.
We tried the lights, they didn't look so good on camera. We tried them again, they didn't look so good on camera. We tried them again. And again with the sound, we were having microphone issues. We mostly managed to solve them. But there was the time to do that. So it is shot for people to watch as opposed to just having a record of the show.
Mhm.
It is still a theater show, though. I have people who do interactive digital content, and it is meant for a digital audience primarily. And this is still primarily a theater show that I am hoping to perform in theaters eventually. But
Yeah.
I'm really proud of this digital version. So I feel that it can resonate not maybe as much as a being in a theater, but pretty close.
Mhm. That's
And you don't
awesome.
have to wear pants
Yeah.
watching it. I mean, it's a Fringe.
That's
You don't have to wear
great
pants
bonus.
anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious as to like your process as a performer because even when you do have like that stage still, when you don't have the audience, for some performers, it's a little bit jarring to not have that energy to work off of. So I'm wondering for you in particular, how you shifted to performing to an empty room and like how your process was different from when there is an audience present.
Well, my process at that point was desperation because we were at hour 6. It's an
Oh,
hour-long show, and we had to be out in hour 7. So it was just like, we're doing this. I
mhm.
mean, I'd love to have this like really, pretentious answer or deep answer about, I drew from deep inside me, but I was like, we got to get through this thing or the
Mhm.
entire day will have been wasted.
Yeah.
So, yeah, just there were, like I said, tech issues and moving giant pieces, which I will not be touring with into the theater, um and all of that. It just took time. It took
Mhm.
more time than I thought it would take, to be honest. And by the time we got to basically hour 6, I was like, oh my god, we have to shoot this thing. So I guess every second that we got on camera, I was like, yes,
Mhm.
yes. And I mean, if I had been able to do it a second time and sort of splice things in, that would have been nice.
Mhm.
But I mean, I drew from desperation and an acute knowledge of the clock at that
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I think it's really cool though that you only really had that one take because it keeps like the rawness of the theater, like just that extra amount than if you had more time. So,
But also
and
my performance shoes were not with me, and I just wore my sister's high heeled shoes. 4 different shoe sizes.
Oh no.
So I mean, it was also like, oh, my feet are hurting the whole time. I mean, I performed all of my performance stuff. I shipped to Newcastle in the UK because I was supposed to perform there when the pandemic hit. So it is in someone's shed in Newcastle. So I didn't have my shoes. I guess I could have bought new shoes, but
Mm,
I didn't. So yeah, that's
yeah.
anyway. That's my answer.
Yeah, oh, that's really exciting that you were still able to do your project even in COVID. And I'm curious because, like you've mentioned, a lot of places. Like, where has been your favorite place to tour, and what has been your best theater experience in all these different places that you've gone?
I toured a lot. Usually I tour between 30 and 40 countries a year, and there's several shows in each of those countries. So I think my favorite was in Sudan. I sang in Khartoum for 2 years running. I did concerts of Canadian French music. It was through the Canadian government, actually, and I performed there. And I also went in, I led jazz workshops at the university. So, I mean, the performances were fine. It was fun. It was by a pool. There were lots of diplomats, really lovely food. But what really resonated for me was going in and working with the college students who were
Mhm.
studying jazz. Because if you think about it, Sudan is far. I mean, Sudan is far away. These are students who are not going to get the opportunities that musicians have in
Mhm.
Europe and America and Asia and in so many other places. Just the infrastructure of the country right now is that way. I mean, it's being a musician is a bold choice, and going in and working with these people who knew way more about jazz than I did because I'm not a jazz musician. I went in and it was more about vocal technique when I was working. That's why I came in, but just I was so impressed with the talent and the commitment to music at it was the foremost women's university in Africa actually, or in that part of Africa. So it was really amazing to work with the people. So that was great. I also performed in Chad, in Jamana, Chad, and I did a children's opera show there, and it
Nice.
was for local kids, and a lot of them. I mean, there isn't really theater there for
Mhm.
children. I mean, there's not a lot of theater there anyway, but there's not theater there for children. So these are kids who have never attended a theater show, and it was in someone's living room, and there was like 40 kids, all the neighborhood kids gathered around, and I had my puppets because I had just performed all through Asia, and I had them with me, and I did an opera show and in French because the kids spoke French. And these are, like I said, these kids have never seen theater, but they understood it was a show. They were watching, they participated. Um, that was amazing. I did that show at an orphanage in Morocco once. And again, they had a power outage, so I couldn't play the music. So it was just like, and it was outside, and I couldn't use a microphone, and it was just like it was a bit of a mess. But again, it meant so much to the kids to come and like stroke the puppets and just theater was something that just didn't come to them in rural Morocco. So
Mhm.
it's yeah, I've had a lot of really wonderful experiences. Like it's just you never exactly know when I go in and sing a gig what is going to happen. And something always
Mhm.
happens.
Yeah,
So
that's really cool to get to like go to all those places and have like that really enriching experience and bring something that kids aren't familiar with and like show them what's possible, I guess is like the good way of saying it. Um, yeah, I think sometimes we don't realize how blessed we are here. Like we want more of the arts, obviously, but like we're blessed to have what we do have too. And yeah, it's wonderful.
yeah, I miss travel.
Yeah.
I miss travel so much. Like all I want to do is talk about travel. Even like terrible airplane food. I'm like, oh, I miss you
Mm,
so much.
yeah.
Terrible food that I can't even eat. It's not. It's like plastic and yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been performing for? Because with all these
Forever.
different places.
I mean, I started performing when I was 6. I
Oh, wow.
have 5 degrees in opera performance from different universities. That was really all I was going to be an opera singer. That was the plan. I was going to
Mhm.
be an opera singer. I got my opera degrees. I got my master's, my postmasters, all of that in opera performance. So that was really my background. I did the few high profile gigs. I sang at Lincoln Center. I did a whole bunch of like really big. I did a show at Carnegie Hall. I did like some big opera gigs, but then I realized I didn't like it anymore. When you do a fringe, when you do a festival, and again, maybe things have changed because this was a while ago, but when you do a festival, it's like a family. You tour with
Mhm.
I tend to tour
Yeah.
with the same groups of people. You know, you see someone in Toronto, you'll see them later in Vancouver, you know, you'll see them in Adelaide later. You just, you know, Reykjavik, wherever you end up going, these people tend to be there. So
Mhm.
it's like having family or bits of a family that you get to do something you love with them there. In opera, everyone's like with a dagger waiting to plunge it
Oh,
in your
no.
back. And it just got, everyone was just so petty. And I know it's not always like that, but it was always like that, and it
Mhm.
just like the more successful you were, the more people are just like waiting to be like, oh, that high note could have been better, not like, oh my God, you're an acrobat who like eats fire. That is so cool. And I don't need to have someone ready to put a dagger in my back, even if I love the music. And there's only a certain amount of room for creativity in opera. Like other
Mhm.
classical music, there can be a little bit more sometimes. But if I'm interpreting something, I've done the research, I'm trying to interpret it in a certain way, there'll be someone who's like, it's wrong. Not
Yeah.
it's an artistic choice that maybe the conductor doesn't like, but just it's wrong. And I really like being able to, I mean, at a certain point with education and with experience, you do want to be able to make some artistic choices and have
Mhm.
people respect them.
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah, so now
Yeah.
I don't do that anymore. I
Yeah.
don't do opera. I miss it, I do, but also I have a pretty great career doing music history
Mhm.
and shows. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
so if I'm hearing you correctly, it was like that, to have more freedom with your art, was a big element of that. Yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, also there's only one correct way to sing in classical music, and I get it. Like I understand classical vocal technique. Believe me, at this point, I really do. I'm a pretty experienced pedagogue in that. But with these popular songs, you don't want to sing it like opera. That just it doesn't
Mhm.
resonate with audiences if you go like, I'm coming and singing it like an opera singer. Like they don't want to hear that. That's not how it was sung back in the day. So just having the freedom to find these songs and save history basically because no one cares about those operas that people have forgotten. Honestly, they're just, I would do these rare opera arias and people would be like, you should just do one everyone knows. And I like digging up music. I realized that was my passion. Digging it up, writing about it, performing. I mean, I'm a professional writer also, so that's something else I do about history. But I love it. I love doing this, and it seems to have. I mean, when I was doing opera, no matter how successful you are, when you're done a gig, you walk into an audition with 50 other people singing the same thing, and you have to prove you're the best. I haven't auditioned in years, and I work regularly. Like,
Mhm.
people call me, people hire me, people buy the shows, not just buying, like, me, but people will license the shows to be done at a college, you know, license the music I've recorded to be on a TV show. Like, it's worked, basically. It's worked. I'm
Yeah.
hoping it'll start working again after the pandemic is over.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm interested to see like how we shift back into like those regular routines and how things shift going forward. Um, but yeah, I'm sure at some point, travel will open up and you'll have those opportunities again. So,
Maybe. Hopefully. Hopefully, yes.
yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like our audience to know? I'm just noticing the time and I want to make sure you have space to, if there's anything in particular you want them to know about your
Um,
performance.
just that it's fun. Like there are a lot of shows out there, and this is good, that have a social message that's there to educate you to be a better person. This isn't that. Like
Mhm.
it isn't. It's just a bunch of really cool old songs and a show built around them, and it's just fun. I think often people forget that yes, theater is supposed to have a message and is supposed to enact social change and all that, but also like sometimes it's just fun.
Mhm.
And that's I mean that's what this show is. And that's it, I guess.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I think that's very needed right now with the pandemic. It's like we just need to remember how to smile again.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time, Melanie. And thank you to our audience for taking the time to watch today. Merci, miigwech, and gracias for being part of our podcast. I hope you all have a great day. The festival runs from August 19th to 22nd. Come on out, buy a ticket, come support Melanie. And yeah, we hope to see you all there. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you for watching our podcast. Merci, miigwech, gracias. If you like what we're doing, you can support Fringe North and the artists involved in this year's festival financially so that we can continue this work. Visit www.fringenorth.ca to find out more.